King Solomon, the wisest monarch to ever grace a throne, presided over an era of unparalleled peace and prosperity. But how did such a divinely favored reign, built on immense wealth, ultimately lead to the tragic division and ruin of his kingdom? The answer, shockingly, lies within the very source of his greatest glory, a vast, global trade empire. Solomon's journey began with a profound encounter at Gibeon. There, the Lord appeared to him in a dream, offering him anything he desired. Instead of riches or long life, Solomon humbly asked for an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 5 to 9. Pleased, God not only granted him unparalleled wisdom, but also promised him wealth and honor, conditional on his faithfulness. 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 10 to 14. This divine wisdom fueled Solomon's early vision for a strong, self-sufficient Israel, a nation whose prosperity would reflect God's blessing. To realize this grand vision, Solomon forged a crucial alliance with Hiram, the seasoned king of Tyre. Their long-standing friendship blossomed into a strategic partnership, as detailed in 1 Kings chapter 5, verses 1 to 12. Hiram, whose Phoenician people were masters of the sea, possessed invaluable maritime expertise and access to vital resources, particularly the prized cedar from Lebanon. This alliance was indispensable, providing Israel with skilled sailors, shipwrights, and the raw materials needed to construct a formidable fleet. It was through Tyre's naval prowess that Solomon could contemplate accessing distant overseas trade routes, laying the groundwork for an unprecedented global reach. With Tyrian assistance, Solomon established Ezion-Geber, a strategic port on the shore of the Red Sea. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 26. This bustling hub became the birthplace of Israel's maritime ambition. Here, the combined efforts of Tyrian and Israelite shipbuilders transformed a desolate coastline into a vibrant shipyard. Massive vessels, unlike any Israel had ever seen, began to take shape. This monumental undertaking, a testament to Solomon's ambition and God-given wisdom, marked the dawn of Israel's commercial dominion, preparing to launch its ships into unknown waters. Uncover the secret behind Solomon's legendary ships of Tarshish and the epic journeys that defined his empire. For a kingdom nestled in the Levant, the concept of a global maritime trade network was revolutionary. The Bible refers to these vessels as ships of Tarshish, a term that did not necessarily mean they sailed from a specific place called Tarshish, but rather that they were large, ocean-going ships, built for long, arduous voyages. These were not mere coastal traders, they were colossal vessels designed for deep-sea exploration and commerce across vast and often perilous waters. Every 3 years, this formidable fleet would embark from Ezion-Geber, venturing into the Red Sea and beyond, into the unknown expanse of the Indian Ocean. Their journeys were immense undertakings, fraught with the dangers of ancient navigation, unpredictable storms, and uncharted territories, yet they sailed with audacious purpose, driven by the king's insatiable vision. Where did King Solomon get his legendary 666 talents of gold? The answer lies in the mysterious land of Ophir. From these distant shores, the ships of Tarshish would return, laden with unimaginable riches, chief among them, gold in staggering quantities. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 28 records the initial expedition, bringing back 420 talents of gold, while 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 14 details Solomon's annual income in gold alone, 666 talents, an amount that solidified his kingdom as the wealthiest of its era. This immense golden bounty financed Solomon's ambitious building projects, from the glorious temple in Jerusalem to his own magnificent palace, and adorned his capital with unparalleled splendor. The influx of this precious metal transformed Jerusalem's economy, ushering in an era of opulence that was unprecedented in the ancient world, elevating Israel to a status of staggering financial might. Beyond gold, what strange and wonderful treasures did Solomon's ships bring back, transforming his kingdom into a paradise? The Tarshish fleet's cargo was not limited to precious metals. As recorded in 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 22, these voyages also delivered a menagerie of exotic goods: silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Ivory, intricately carved, became a symbol of luxury and artistic prowess. Apes and peacocks, creatures rarely seen in the Near East, were living testaments to the kingdom's global reach, adorning royal gardens and palaces, captivating visitors with their vibrant plumage and playful antics. These imports were more than mere commodities. They were tokens of power, prestige, and a sophisticated cosmopolitan culture, showcasing Israel's elevated status and Solomon's personal indulgence in the rare and magnificent. Witness the breathtaking peak of Israel's power, when silver was as common as stones and Solomon reigned supreme. The relentless success of the Tarshish fleet fundamentally reshaped Jerusalem and indeed all of Israel. The capital became a beacon of prosperity, attracting merchants and dignitaries from every corner of the known world, eager to witness its grandeur. As 1 Kings chapter 10, verses 23 to 24 affirms, King Solomon was greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. The whole world sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom God had put in his heart. Such was the abundance that, according to 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 27, the king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar as plentiful as sycamore fig trees in the foothills. This was a golden age, a zenith of material wealth and influence, yet this very abundance would subtly begin to test the foundations of faith. The ultimate test of Solomon's wisdom and wealth, how the Queen of Sheba reacted to his unimaginable riches. The apex of this global recognition arrived with the Queen of Sheba, a powerful monarch who traveled from the ends of the earth to test Solomon's legendary wisdom with hard questions. 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 1. Her journey was a testament to his fame, but it was the sheer opulence of his kingdom, directly fueled by the Tarshish fleet's treasures, that truly left her awestruck. Witnessing his palace, his banquets, and the abundance of his court, she declared in 1 Kings chapter 10, verses 6 to 7, "The report I heard in my own country about your achievements and your wisdom is true, but I did not believe these things until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, not even half was told me. In wisdom and wealth you have far exceeded the report I heard." Her words stand as the ultimate validation of a kingdom at its zenith, yet this very zenith would become the precipice of a slow, insidious decline. The very blessings that made Solomon great began to twist his heart, discover the first cracks in his divine favor. As the golden tide of the Tarshish fleet continued to pour riches into Jerusalem, King Solomon's personal desires began to expand beyond the bounds of divine command. His palace, once a testament to God's glory, became increasingly adorned with foreign luxuries, each new acquisition a subtle step away from the simplicity and devotion of his earlier reign. Scripture warns against a king multiplying horses, silver, gold, and wives for himself, lest his heart be led astray. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 16 to 17. Yet Solomon, fueled by the unprecedented wealth from his global trade network, amassed these very things in staggering quantities, allowing unchecked prosperity to sow the seeds of future compromise. How did Solomon's political genius become his greatest weakness? The answer lies in the hundreds of foreign queens he brought into his kingdom. The vast network of trade routes established by the Tarshish fleet demanded not only maritime prowess, but also intricate diplomatic relations. To secure these vital alliances and ensure political stability, Solomon embarked on a policy of strategic marriages with foreign princesses. These unions, initially appearing as shrewd political moves, rapidly spiraled into a spiritual snare. The Bible records that Solomon loved many foreign women, taking 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines from nations God had explicitly warned Israel against intermarrying with. 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 to 3, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 3 to 4. These prohibitions were clear. Such unions would inevitably turn hearts after other gods. Solomon, in his pursuit of earthly power and influence, chose to disregard these divine boundaries. The shocking truth: Solomon, builder of God's temple, also built altars to pagan gods, committing the ultimate betrayal. As Solomon grew old, the insidious influence of his foreign wives began to take its heavy toll. The very women brought in for political stability soon turned his heart away from the Lord, his God, just as God had warned. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 4. What started as political compromise quickly escalated into overt spiritual rebellion. Solomon, the man gifted with unparalleled wisdom to discern good from evil, now permitted, and even participated, in the construction of altars to detestable pagan deities on the hills surrounding Jerusalem. He built high places for Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, for Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and for Molech, the god of the Ammonites, whose worship included the horrific practice of child sacrifice. 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 5 to 7. These were not mere acts of cultural acceptance. They were a direct, flagrant violation of God's most sacred commands. How did Solomon's global trade empire inadvertently open the floodgates to spiritual corruption, subtly turning his people away from God? The ceaseless voyages of the ships of Tarshish brought more than just gold, ivory, apes, and peacocks. They brought a constant influx of foreign merchants, exotic ideas, and alien religious practices into the heart of Israel. Jerusalem, once a beacon of monotheistic worship, became a melting pot of cultures. This constant exposure to diverse beliefs and customs gradually desensitized the nation to God's stern warnings against foreign influences. The once clear lines between Israelite faith and pagan idolatry blurred, making spiritual compromise seem less offensive, less dangerous. The very engine of Solomon's prosperity, his global trade empire, inadvertently eroded Israel's distinct spiritual identity, preparing the ground for widespread unfaithfulness. The terrifying moment God directly confronted Solomon, revealing the dire consequences of his choices. What did God say to the wisest king? Even amidst Solomon's escalating disobedience, God's patience and faithfulness remained. He had appeared to Solomon not once but twice, reaffirming his covenant and issuing clear warnings. If Solomon or his descendants turned away to serve other gods, the kingdom would be cut off. 1 Kings chapter 9, verses 6 to 7. Yet, Solomon, despite these unmistakable divine interventions, hardened his heart. The narrative records God's anguish. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 9. This was not ignorance, but willful rebellion. God's warnings were unequivocal, his patience profound, but Solomon's choices left no room for continued blessing. The consequences were now inevitable, a sorrowful testament to the profound disappointment of a God betrayed. The prophecy that sealed Israel's fate, a cloak torn into 12 pieces, foretelling the tragic end of Solomon's unified kingdom. The weight of Solomon's spiritual decline culminated in a dramatic prophecy of divine judgment. Outside Jerusalem, on a dusty road, the prophet Ahijah confronted Jeroboam, one of Solomon's officials. In a symbolic act, Ahijah tore his new cloak into 12 pieces, declaring, "Take 10 pieces for yourself, for this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. See, I am going to tear the kingdom out of Solomon's hand and give you 10 tribes." 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 29 to 31. This was God's direct pronouncement. The once glorious kingdom, united under Solomon, would be violently divided. Though for David's sake this catastrophic split would not occur during Solomon's lifetime, the prophecy made it clear. The corruption fueled by Solomon's wealth and his descent into idolatry had irrevocably shattered the unity of God's chosen people. God's judgment begins. How a forgotten enemy rose from the ashes to plague Solomon's once invincible kingdom. As Solomon's heart strayed, the Lord began to fulfill his warnings, raising adversaries against the once peaceful kingdom. One such figure was Hadad the Edomite, a royal from the land of Edom, whom David had once subdued. Hadad had fled to Egypt as a youth, finding refuge, and even marrying the sister of Pharaoh's wife. But as Solomon's devotion waned, God stirred Hadad to return. He became a relentless thorn in Israel's side, constantly harassing its borders, raiding its territories, and draining the resources of Solomon's once unburdened military. This was not mere political strife. It was a clear manifestation of God's displeasure, a harbinger of the greater troubles to come. As Solomon turned from God, new enemies emerged from every corner, chipping away at his once unbreakable empire. Another formidable adversary God raised up was Rezon, son of Eliada, who had fled from his master, Hadadezer king of Zobah. Rezon gathered a band of men, became their leader, and after David's victory over Zobah, established himself as king in Damascus. He harbored a deep-seated hatred for Israel and, like Hadad, became a persistent enemy throughout Solomon's reign. Rezon's constant opposition meant that the northern borders were never truly secure, forcing Solomon to maintain a costly military presence and diverting attention and resources from the grand projects and lucrative trade routes that had once defined his glory. These relentless pressures were a heavy burden, a stark reminder that the security of a kingdom rested not on its wealth or military might, but on the faithfulness of its king to God. The man chosen by God to tear Solomon's kingdom apart, Jeroboam's desperate flight and the seeds of Israel's division. The external threats were compounded by growing internal unrest. Jeroboam, a capable and ambitious official whom Solomon had placed in charge of forced labor from the tribes of Joseph, witnessed firsthand the heavy burdens placed upon the people. While Solomon accumulated immense wealth, building lavish palaces and maintaining his expansive trade network, the populace bore the brunt of his ambitious projects through taxes and conscripted labor. The prophet Ahijah's prophecy, foretelling Jeroboam's future rule over 10 tribes, ignited the flames of his ambition. When Solomon learned of Jeroboam's intentions, he sought to kill him, forcing Jeroboam to flee to Egypt, where he found refuge with Pharaoh Shishak. Yet even from exile, Jeroboam's influence grew among the disaffected tribes, patiently waiting for the moment when Solomon's heavy hand would finally break the unity of Israel. The once mighty Tarshish fleet, a symbol of Solomon's power, slowly began to rust as his kingdom crumbled from within. The grand maritime enterprise, once a source of unparalleled prosperity, now faced increasing challenges. The long 3-year voyages to distant lands like Ophir and Tarshish, already arduous, became riskier and less frequent. Adversaries like Hadad and Rezon disrupted trade routes and demanded resources for defense, inflating the cost of maintaining the fleet and protecting its cargo. What was once a vibrant symbol of Israel's global reach slowly diminished into a burden. The sheer volume of exotic goods and gold, though still impressive, could no longer mask the underlying spiritual and political decay. The fleet, which had once epitomized Solomon's wisdom and God's blessing, now served as a poignant reminder of his misplaced priorities, becoming a symbol of a kingdom whose glory was fading, a vessel slowly succumbing to the corrosive effects of unchecked worldliness. The wisest man's ultimate confession, all his gold, power, and glory were meaningless. What profound lesson did Solomon learn too late? In his twilight years, amidst the opulence of his palace and the fading echoes of past triumphs, King Solomon was a man haunted by regret. The unbridled pursuit of pleasure and wealth, fueled by the very trade that had brought him such fame, had left his soul barren. His reflections are immortalized in the book of Ecclesiastes, where he lamented, "Meaningless, meaningless," says the teacher, "utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless." Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2. He had denied himself nothing his eyes desired, refused his heart no pleasure. Yet when he surveyed all his hands had done, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 10 to 11. The gold from Ophir, the ivory, apes, and peacocks, all the treasures brought by his magnificent fleet, could not fill the spiritual void created by his turning away from God. This was the profound, sorrowful realization of the wisest man who had learned, too late, the futility of a life lived apart from its divine purpose. The heartbreaking moment Solomon's glorious kingdom shattered into two, fulfilling God's prophecy and forever changing Israel's destiny. The ultimate price of Solomon's spiritual compromise was paid not by him, but by his son Rehoboam. Upon Solomon's death, the people, burdened by the heavy taxes and forced labor, appealed to Rehoboam for relief. But Rehoboam, rejecting the counsel of the elders and listening instead to his young, inexperienced advisers, declared, "My father flogged you with whips. I will flog you with scorpions." 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 14. This arrogant response was the final straw. The prophecy of Ahijah was dramatically fulfilled. 10 tribes rebelled, forming the northern kingdom of Israel under Jeroboam, while only Judah and Benjamin remained loyal to Rehoboam, forming the southern kingdom. The once unified, glorious kingdom built by David and brought to its zenith by Solomon was irrevocably torn asunder, a direct and tragic consequence of a king who, despite unparalleled wisdom, allowed worldly desires and foreign influences to lead his heart astray from the Lord. Is prosperity a blessing or a curse? Solomon's story reveals the shocking truth about worldly gain. When King Solomon first launched his fleet of Tarshish, it represented a vision of God-given prosperity, a means to build the temple and strengthen Israel. It brought unprecedented wealth, transforming Jerusalem into a golden city. Yet, as we have seen, the very source of this glory became a conduit for his downfall. The subtle shift occurred when wealth transitioned from a tool for God's glory to an end in itself, a pursuit of boundless luxury and influence. This narrative serves as a profound reflection on the deceptive nature of worldly success. Without a firm spiritual grounding, even the most magnificent achievements, the most abundant riches, can subtly erode one's devotion, leaving behind only the hollow echo of what once was. The silent enemy that destroyed Solomon's faith. Discover how small compromises can lead to catastrophic spiritual ruin. Solomon's trajectory presents a stark warning: the dangers of compromise. It was a gradual, insidious process, a slippery slope that began with foreign trade, advanced to foreign alliances sealed by marriage, and culminated in the worship of foreign gods. God's explicit commands, clearly laid out in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 3 to 4, were not arbitrary restrictions but safeguards designed to protect his people from spiritual contamination. Solomon's choice to disregard these warnings, prioritizing political expediency and personal desire over divine instruction, led to a cascade of compromises. Each small deviation, each seemingly minor concession, weakened his spiritual resolve, ultimately turning his heart away from the Lord. This story powerfully reminds us that God's unchanging nature and the importance of adhering to His Word remain our only true anchor against the relentless tide of worldly temptations. Solomon's ultimate secret to a meaningful life, hidden in his final words, a truth that could change everything for you. In the twilight of his life, after experiencing the heights of power, the depths of pleasure, and the emptiness of all earthly pursuits, Solomon penned his final, poignant counsel in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. This is the essence of true wisdom, not merely accumulated knowledge, but a profound understanding learned through bitter experience and profound regret. It is a timeless lesson, enduring through the ages, offering the antidote to the spiritual decline that marked his own reign and the fate of his glorious fleet. Solomon began with everything but finished in despair. Discover the one lesson that determines how you asterisks will finish your race. The story of King Solomon, from his divinely blessed beginning to his tragic end, underscores a critical truth. It's not how you start, but how you finish that matters. He started with an unparalleled gift of wisdom, immense favor, and a heart devoted to God. Yet his final years were clouded by disobedience and a deep sense of meaninglessness. His life serves as a powerful reminder that the journey of faith requires continuous vigilance, steadfast adherence to God's commands, and an unwavering heart. Our perseverance in faith, our commitment to finishing well, is the ultimate testament to our devotion, a lesson Solomon learned at the highest possible cost. What are your ships of Tarshish? The ancient story of Solomon holds a mirror to our modern lives, revealing hidden dangers. Solomon's global trade network, his Tarshish fleets, brought him unimaginable wealth and influence. But what are our own Tarshish fleets today? Is it the relentless pursuit of career success, the accumulation of material possessions, the quest for digital influence, or the allure of worldly philosophies? The challenge for us, as for Solomon, is to examine these pursuits. Are they drawing us closer to God, serving His purposes, or are they subtly leading our hearts astray, fostering compromise and desensitizing us to His warnings? This ancient narrative serves as a modern mirror, urging deep introspection into the insidious nature of contemporary temptations and their true cost. The timeless wisdom that can save you from Solomon's mistakes. Why God's Word is your ultimate guide. The very fact that Solomon's story, with all its glory and tragic flaws, is preserved in the sacred Scriptures, speaks to the enduring power and relevance of God's Word. It is not merely a historical account, but a living, breathing guide, preserved for our instruction and admonition. Consistent engagement with biblical teachings, a deep immersion in God's eternal truth, remains our ultimate safeguard against the corrupting influences of the world. Even when humanity falters, as Solomon did so profoundly, God's faithfulness remains steadfast, His Word a beacon of unwavering light in a world prone to compromise. If this story opened your eyes, don't miss our next powerful lesson. Join our community and share your thoughts. We hope this exploration into Solomon's golden chains has provided powerful insights and prompted valuable reflection. If you found this story enlightening, please take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful, biblical stories and life-changing lessons straight to you. We also encourage you to share your thoughts. What stood out to you most about Solomon's journey and the lessons for today? Leave a comment below. We love hearing from our community. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, because these timeless lessons are meant to be shared. What is the ultimate treasure that even King Solomon couldn't buy? The answer will change your perspective forever. As we reflect on Solomon's life, a man who amassed riches beyond measure, we are reminded that true fulfillment is found not in gold or ivory, not in power or prestige, but in an unshakable, devoted relationship with God. The ultimate treasure, the lasting legacy, lies in a heart fully surrendered to our Creator, prioritizing spiritual riches over earthly gain. May we learn from the wisest king's mistakes and strive to keep our hearts fixed on the only source of enduring joy and peace. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Stay tuned for more life-changing stories from the Bible. We are committed to uncovering powerful biblical narratives and extracting timeless truths that can profoundly impact your spiritual life. Until next time, may you be blessed as you seek to walk faithfully with God.